It's great to be here, everybody. Running to a stage that's partially burning, which is always nice. There's enough effect. My name is Antti Merilehto. I'm your friend today. I'll take good care of you. And dear attendees, I'm also your friend on your trip, on your journey to the business side of AI, the way we see it now, 2016 and 17. And just briefly, you got the better part of the introduction, but so you know who we're with. On my left is Anita Schjøll Brede.
Close enough.
Excellent. We'll do with that. You're the CEO and co-founder of Iris AI. Yes. Perfect. And yeah, we should do the rounds. And to my right, Sofie Quidenus, also the CEO and co-founder of SearchInk. And Eamon Jubbawy, Onfido, co-founder and CEO. And all of us here, all of you guys have a specific problem that you're solving with your companies. For you, you will read all the science there is and help connect the dots. So that's what you're doing.
Yeah, maybe not in 2017, but yes.
Okay, that's where you're heading. Goal. Perfect. Whereas Sofie, what you will do is that anything that anyone has written by hand, it will be searchable at some point.
Yes.
Excellent. And for Eamon, you have the machine learning to deliver identity verification.
Exactly.
Perfect. When we were looking at this and we were huddling on backstage and where do we start so that we make it as interesting as possible for all of us on AI, you had the fresh news of getting a seed round of 4.2 million. But you have been doing this for a long time. For your first company you started 12 years ago?
Yes.
It was a very different landscape then. Can you tell us about it?
So I was 21 and I started my first company in robotics in Vienna, 2004. So as you all can imagine, it was a little bit a different thing than today. Today we have conferences like Slush where 15,000 people are running around and talking about startups and being a founder or not being a founder. And back then, I can remember it very well, it was super difficult to describe to my surrounding what I'm doing because there was not even the definition of founder, startup, seed round. But for some reason, I was able to do that and to build a robot and to build this today profitable company. So this is...
And to put that on a timeline, that was 4 years before the first Slush event took place. I mean, and that was 300 people. So in a way, just to put it, 12 years here is a very long time. But now you're in a different position.
Yes, and also Vienna is in a different position.
Of course.
There is the Pioneers Conference, there is Speed Invest, a fund. Yes, and today I'm in a different position. I have money on my account, which is great, and I can finance to realize this vision.
Excellent. And for you, you're in a pre-funding phase right now.
Yeah, we're kind of, compared to your companies, we're fairly early stage. We have raised pre-seed funding, but we're very, very soon going to be raising our seed round. So right now we've been talking to a lot of investors all over the world.
It's a great place to be if you want to talk to investors, huh?
It is, definitely. Yeah. And we're a Norwegian registered startup, but we're probably not going to stay in Norway forever. So it's interesting. I mean, we're talking to investors all over Europe, all over the US. And it's interesting. I mean, AI is such a hot topic right now, right? It's such a hype in many ways, and there's a lot of companies out there that claim to be doing AI that really is just like sprinkle some machine learning on some problem that doesn't necessarily need machine learning. So it's interesting to talk to investors that they all want to be part of it, but a lot of people don't quite understand it yet, and kind of trying to get the quality of the...
And let's look at the investors and different types of them in a bit. Perfect. Eamon, you're the most senior when it comes to funding here.
Yeah, so most senior when it comes to funding, probably most junior when it comes to age. 12 years ago, I was still 12, so...
That's okay.
Yeah, but we raised around $30 million to build a global ID verification engine. We've always been it's been global from day one for us, because in order to build a trust engine to power the online economy, you need to do that on a global basis. You can't just be able to verify UK individuals or US individuals. It just doesn't work in this kind of global economy. So we had to raise a lot of money to build this vision, and luckily we're backed by some amazing European and US investors to do that.
And if we now start to talk about business, we have to talk about money. We have to go all the way Cuba Gooding Jr. Show me the money style. So if I would now go and ask your early investors, why did you invest to this company? What would they say? What made you trustworthy? What made you tick in the first place? What do you think?
I think it all comes down to the problem that you're trying to solve. And if it's something which the investor has felt firsthand and sees the size and scale of the problem, it really is kind of relatively straightforward to raise funding for that. So for us, we're telling these investors, look, the fact that if you want to open up a bank account, you need to go into the branch, you take your documents with you, a non-expert human is looking at your documents, trying to verify if they're fake or genuine.
I love the term non-expert human, because we all are, most of us are non-expert in most of things.
And actually, even in controlled trials, you have expert border control professionals who only can verify if two faces match 80% of the time. So for us, for that process to be done manually just didn't make any sense. So now a bank which uses Onfido technology, who wants to onboard you as a customer, you simply download their app at home, take a picture of your ID document, you take a picture of your face, we match the two together using machine learning, and we onboard you instantly rather than days or weeks that it can take.
Okay. So kind of that makes sense that it's part of the market size, part of the solution, all of that.
Yeah, an obvious problem, which is a big and kind of global one. If you're doing something in that space and using machine learning and artificial intelligence properly in a structured way, you're onto a winner.
Excellent. And again, for the most recent talks with investors, at least with a track record, that's been you. So why do your investors invest to you?
I would say it's very similar. It's a huge market. There are still billions of texts in handwritten form, in fill-in forms, insurance, healthcare, expense management, and it's about saving costs for huge markets. So this is the reason why people gave me the money, and we are approaching this topic, which other companies try to solve with just pattern recognition, with this semantic enrichment, this neural network approach. So it's scalable for the first time. It's really an automatized process, skipping all manual interactions. So I would say it's quite similar.
And I think really, like with AI, if you want to build a successful AI business today, you want to pick a hyper-specific problem and solve that really well. Because if you're trying to build like generalized AI, like the truth is you're not going to beat DeepMind. They have an incredible team. They have Google backing them in basically every element of the business. And when it comes to AI and things like data being such a big element of that, generalized AI is something which the big companies are going to sort that. I'm confident of that. But if you want to build a successful startup in AI, pick a hyper-specific problem, tackle that better than anyone else in the world, and then that's where you have a successful business.
Okay, so I'm going to rephrase, because I think we have our first true gold nugget if you're going to go forward. So instead of general AI, the Google Doodle apps, which was a great thing to spend your time, but to be hyper-specific on where you're aiming. So that's where you're going to get forward. Is that, did I get it correctly?
That's where you can build a successful AI business today.
Excellent.
I think that's what everyone here is doing.
Guys, you're here for a reason.
Yeah.
But I also think, and I think that's a very valid point, but to our business, because we are going to read all of the science, that's not very specific, but the technology and the problem we're solving is still very specific. It's just that we don't go industry specific, we go kind of R&D, science, research in general, but we're solving a very specific problem of there's too much content to read in the scientific realm. So it's still a very specific problem, but in a general cross-industrial application.
And one thing where I want to touch upon was you said that AI is a bit of a buzzword. So there are a lot of people with the hat, I know AI, and I mean, it's everywhere. If you look at the Google Trends on AI, like I told you when I flew in here, the Financial Times had a full page on Microsoft AI. And it's like, it feels to me, I'm an outsider. That's why I'm asking the questions. So for me, it feels the same like 2 years ago with big data. If you asked any CIO 2 years ago, are you interested in big data? Yes, I am very interested in big data. It's for our, like, yeah, right. So are we living the same? Like, well, you started with it. Go ahead.
I mean, in one way, AI is just the next logical step, right? Okay, we're really interested in big data. Awesome, we have a lot of big data. Now what the fuck do we do, right? and kind of AI and machine learning is like, well, we take all that big data that we have access to and we do something about it. And I think that the hype now is actually taking, I mean, most of the technologies that we're using, although I don't know the details of yours, I mean, it's technology that's been around for a while, right? But just at this point, it is, you know, we have enough computational power and access to data that we can actually apply it on specific use cases. And that's kind of the difference, and that's why it is a hype, yes, but also a very clear kind of, we now have things that we can build into solid value propositions.
Excellent. How do you feel about it? Are there, if you look at people who come to you with their AI hats, are they the real deal? Are they, how do you feel about it?
So I still have the overview of people coming to me and want to invest in our company. I feel like, yes, as soon as you have a deeper conversation about the topic, you are talking with people who are aware of the theme, and then it's a totally different thing. So I don't feel like that it's super abstract. It's true for the first pitch, and it's cool to say, hey, we are using deep learning and neural networks, and then you get attention. Okay, but then in the next conversation, when you dive deeper, you have to convince with the science behind it.
Yeah, and I think that's what we've heard many times here is that it's an actual, let's use the dating metaphor, that yes, at that point where you are, when you need the money, yes, I need the money, but it's a two-way street. You need to have the right people with the right kind of money who understand what you're doing and why you're doing it. And I think especially for you guys, when we're looking at the business, that's very important. But Eamon, for you, what do you say? Do we have, are there enough, you're past gathering funding right now, but for these people, do we have enough investors who understand what's the business, what makes AI tick?
I think there are, and it's definitely developing. So investors are more and more realizing the power of AI. And like, yes, it is a buzzword, and yes, people are saying it, and many people don't fully understand what it is or how to implement it. But the fact is, it is a real competitive advantage if you leverage it. Like, machine learning is the most natural data effect there is. You have traditional businesses, the bigger they get, the weaker they become. They have bureaucracy, hierarchies, inventory, all these kind of challenges that happen when you get bigger. With machine learning, the bigger you get, the more powerful you become. The more data that feeds the system, the better the product gets. The better the product gets, the more customers you get, the more customers you get, the more data you get. And that virtuous cycle is something that's truly powerful. And so despite all the kind of hype and kind of the people throwing around the term, it is really a powerful way to build a global business.
So instead of that, when you grow in size and you get additional layers and regulation, you actually do have the benefit of the size there.
Yeah, for us, size and volume makes us more strong.
Excellent. But let's move on from getting funding. I mean, having the money to run it has to be there. That's a no-brainer. But after that, if we now look at your businesses and what makes them different from many other, let's talk about people, because at the end of the day, that's where everything boils down to. How do you find people who understand what you're doing, who are enthusiastic about what you're doing?
For me, it's it's as important as going for fundraising to pitch my business and my vision to the best scientists and the best developers. One thing which is attractive to them is that we have access to huge amounts of data due to my previous business, because we were digitizing over 900 million pages over this 10 years. So
what was the number?
900 million pages full of printed and handwritten text in combination, so their eyes are starting to glow. And on top of that, I think we have a impactful and meaningful mission, unlocking knowledge. That's something they can understand what we are doing, and it's something I would say it's an exciting journey. And on top of that, when it comes to people, I decided to start the second company on the philosophy of holacracy, light, which is very familiar for developers, and they love the concept of distributed intelligence and distributed authority. And after 12 years, I know already exactly where my weaknesses are. So it's great to have a team and to share the decision-making processes.
Mm-hmm.
I think when before we were having this discussion, and you mentioned holacracy, and maybe Zappos is one of the most famous bigger companies. I think that's a topic that we need to follow up later, because many companies have tried it, or many companies that have tried it have had different experiences with it. So I think that's really interesting, but also because you're going so deep, so well, that's interesting.
We picked holacracy light for a lot of reasons.
Yeah, but at the same time, you're an experienced entrepreneur, so in a way, looking at it from the outside, that you know what you want. So, but I mean, that is really interesting. What about, if you look at your, again, early stage compared to your peers here. So, if you look at it, how do you see recruiting? Is it easy, difficult? Where do you put the slider?
I mean, I think recruiting really good AI talent, if that's what specifically we're talking about. Like good business people you can find from anywhere, but good AI talent is a very unique kind of crowd. And there's definitely the hubs like London, New York, San Francisco, but recruiting there is tricky, especially for a small startup. I think one of our approaches that has turned out to really, really well, even for an early stage startup, is actually the ability to have a distributed team. Like the people we've gotten on board live in places where there don't necessarily exist, other AI companies. So, in order to stay where they want to stay, one of our employees, we got him on board, he was kind of like living in Copenhagen and then kind of maybe moving to Helsinki, and we're like, hey, come work for us. We don't care, we don't care where you live, and you can move whenever you want. Just, come join us. And that flexibility, I think, is unique. Not necessarily to us, but it does attract people.
Absolutely, yeah.
And then there's the second point to it, which I think like our big vision is kind of appropriately geeky and crazy enough for people to go like, that's like, can you do that? Like, yeah, I want to, And another one we hired, his quote when he came on board is like, this sounds really difficult. I'm in.
But exactly, that's where you get the best people.
Yep.
And for now, if I again pick it up, holacracy, very low or no bureaucracy in a way that people can be what they are and go what's the best of the company. This was my own perception, but just heading there. You're okay with that, roughly?
Roughly. I just wanted to add to your comment that I think it's a super big challenge to make the decision. So I think interesting for people here to discuss that. If you decide to build in one city, on one spot, a dev headquarter, or if you accept having your dev team outsourced and accepting this, working remotely. So I had a very tough time making a decision.
Same
because
with us.
My best scientists are at CVC Barcelona Computer Vision Center, and I was really struggling with this decision. At the end, I decided to relocate everybody to Berlin. But I think this is really a very strategically difficult question. I don't know if what you experience.
A big part of what we do is trying to build a strong culture, and we started by doing that by bringing everyone to one place. So our early engineers were from Lisbon, New Zealand, all over the world, Alexandria, but we brought them all into London. And so the team is centrally based there. We have now launched a second office in Lisbon, an engineering office, where we have quite a lot of talent and a great engineering culture out there as well. But for us, it has been, we made the decision early on to keep everyone together. And I think both models work. It's about kind of adapting your culture to whichever one you choose, and you can make both work.
There's also the question of whether you separate the kind of front-end dev team and the AI R&D team. Are they, do you consider that to be the same team, or are those two different teams where one might be distributed, one might be in one location?
Yeah.
And you made the choice that everybody works in Berlin.
Yes, because I wanted to build a culture, as you say, and I thought it's easier to have the people connected to the founders team and to have them feel how painful it is that we don't have a product market fit now, that we try to get in touch with potential customers, trying to get the match here, that they feel this is urgent, this milestone, we have to reach it, because otherwise the founders team is getting crazy and they have sleepless nights because they cannot reach the milestones, they cannot reach the next, so they will not be able to raise the next round and so on. So having this disconnection, I think it's super risky in the early stage phase. So this was just my decision, and that's the reason why we decided to do it in Berlin. And it's a fantastic city to do that.
It's a great point, because for me, like, recruiting AI talent is very hard in London because we have Google, Facebook, and everyone else attracting a lot of the best engineers. But ultimately,
the juggernauts of
exactly. And the truth is, they're great places to work, and so you need to find a way to both attract the best engineers, but also work out which ones you want. So having the big challenge, the real meaty problem to solve, is a huge part of attracting them. But then when you're looking at who you want to bring in, for me, bringing in a world-class AI engineer is about, yes, very deep expertise, PhDs in machine learning, computer vision, pattern recognition, but actually, can they connect the problem to the research? So there's a vast body of research on a particular problem, but can they turn that into a product? And do they understand the customer needs is a really important part of what we test for. And we try and tease that out in the interview process. We try and also understand, can they build at the pace that a startup needs them to move at? Because, doing a great piece of research over 5 years is very different from building a product in 6 months.
Absolutely.
And so those are the really important things for us that we focus on when we're trying to bring in AI engineers.
Just a quick round so that our attendees understand. What's your head count?
We have about 150 in total.
150, roughly?
23 with the new company.
Okay, yeah. But
8 going on 11 very soon.
Okay, exactly. But just to give you, our listeners, our attendees, a picture where we are. And I think this is a really interesting discussion on centralized, like, locally. And I see our watch is telling us 2 minutes, but maybe we'll be the rebels and stay a bit longer. Not much, because, shoot.
No, one comment to the distributed team. I mean, it also belongs to the story that we're a distributed founder team. Right, and that was
exactly.
So we're 4 co-founders. Had we been in the same city, we probably very likely would have built up potentially, like, finding people elsewhere, bringing them together.
Then that's your culture.
Exactly.
That is the setup for your culture.
Exactly.
And there are a lot of ways to build a culture around the setup, which is wonderful, right?
Yep.
And one thing, I just want to do a quick round. Now, what's the next difficult thing you need to solve, like next week? might be a small thing, might be a big one, but you have 30 seconds. Go.
So we're getting investors on board. So we're going to secure our seed round. Probably not next week, but within the next 3 to 4 months.
But that's something that you're going to work with next week.
Yes.
Okay. That was quick. I like it. Eamon.
I'm not sure about next week, but definitely something that's on my mind about the next step for us is that helping customers get onboarded onto platforms or helping companies onboard users in a more seamless way and reducing the amount of fraud is what we do very well. But there's 2 billion unbanked individuals in the world who don't have access to what they need or don't have access to financial services because they're in this unbanked bracket. And so bringing ID verification to that space, to those 2 billion people who don't have access to the democracy that's brought about by the fintech revolution is what we're focusing on. So extending our coverage to those individuals is the bigger picture for us.
Yeah, I'll give you more than a week for that.
Yeah,
You're good.
You.
Excellent.
Thank you.
What about Sofie?
My list is super long, to be honest.
Pick one.
Yes, so as we have now access to a huge amount of data, I need support with processing power. So I have a meeting next week trying to get some deal done here. So this is my next big challenge.
Because that's something that I always really want to hear, like, what do you actually do? And I think that was great answers. And from my notes, just what I picked up was absolutely being hyper-specific, like focus, focus, focus. That's like 3 times focus. That's super focus. And then there's the people, and very different ways, the holacracy way, making sure that you have the right people in the right place, also the location, and getting the knowledge, the like you said, it is very different from 5 years of science. And what I loved, that you said, what does the customer need? So at the end of the day, we figured out there are many things that are different in AI, but again, a lot of things that are the same.
Yep.
I have to tell you, I want to get more this time, and I want to bring marshmallows, because it's actually really warm here. But
Really
at this point, ladies and gentlemen, Anita, Sofie, Eamon, let's give them a big hand. Woo! Thank you.
Thanks.
That was great.
Thanks, guys.